We'll start the waiting now, 2 minutes, and then we'll start. Start the waiting now. 2 minutes.
Are you comfortable? Put you here while I have to do something else. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
One more minute and we'll start. Now, sicha that we're learning is from Chelik Yud. Look at the sichas. Parshas Noach, the first sicha for Parshas Noach. So the Rebbe starts saying, actually, this is a Rasha sicha. So we're going to learn the sicha, and we're going to touch upon some of the ha'aras which are negated to the pshat of the sicha. Some of them are side matters, but this is going to be related to the pshat. On the posik that says that you should make a tzayar to the teva. That means in the beginning of the parsha, when the Eibishter talks to Noach and he tells him to make a teva, you're going to bring a mabel, you should make an ark, and that's how he'll protect himself. And the Eibishter gave him some instructions of what to do. And the posik says, make it of what material it should be made, and how to smear it with kefir, with tar, and the size it's going to have. Some of these details. And then the Torah says, make a tzayar to the teva. What's a tzayar? The Farash Rashi says tzayar, calls the word from the pasuk tzayar, and he says, yesh eminim chalein, some say it's a window, yesh eminim even teva ha'me'ir lehem. He said he should bring in a precious jewel which will shine for them. Some diamonds, some jewels, or should give out light. So you should bring in a even teva, a jewel that will shine. So the Pashtas Kavanas Rashi, so simple pshat. What is Rashi trying to say? Rashi is explaining that the word Sayar is Kemet Saharayim, which is air. And in the order, the Rebbe brings different places. Actually, different Meforshim also say that the word Sayar has a touch of light. Like Tzarayim means at the time when it's still light. Well, Pirish HaKosavu, so what's the pshat in the Pasuk when the Eibusha said, make Sayar? Shakadosh Baruch Hu L'Neach Lasis Dover Shal Yodeh Yio Eir Ba'Teva. Shem told him, do something to bring light into the table. Now, maybe Rashi, Beish Perushim Ahoya, and Rashi says, brings two pshat in what was this light? So the word Sayar is light, but what was this light? So, Yesh Eminim Chalein. Some say this was a window. Shal Yoda Yikonis Eir Ba'Teva, that through the window light will come in. The Locha Nikra HaChalein Kan B'Shem Sayar, that's why it's a window, and Loshen Kedesh, a window is Chalein. But here he uses the word Sayar because the purpose of it was to bring in light. And we'll see in the sicha there, and window could have other purposes too, but here the kavan of the Eibishter was it should bring in more light, so therefore he called it Sayar. And Yeshemim, some say Even Teva, it was a jewel, and Beloma Nikras can't say, why would a jewel be called Sayar? We're talking about a jewel that will bring light, an Even Teva that will bring light. So Sayar is light, and there are two shots in what the light was. I just want to mention something that the Rebbe doesn't say, but which I imagine. When we're talking about a window, In those days, it wasn't a window like we imagine, a window of glass. There was no glass then. There was no window of glass. A window was a hole in the wall. So this, the Eibusher wanted to make a window. And obviously, this is a window that had a cover. You could cover the window and you could open the window. But it's a window that when you need light, you'll open the window and the light will come in. So this is the window. So these are the two pshatim. So the Rebbe says that tzorich lopen, we have to understand. In Posuk it says the word tzayar, singular. While there is a pirish Rashi, b'loshen yochid chalein. Rashi also says singular. Rashi teaches the first pshat, a window, not windows, a window. And the other pshat is eventev, one jewel. So the Rebbe asks, "Ve'eich hispik ha'eir shenichnas ha'idei chalein echad eventev achas l'chol ha'teva." How did the light that came from one window or from one jewel that shined for the whole teva, that would be enough light? Shoya sholish meis amor, because the teva was 300 amor long, 50 amor orbo, 50 amor wide, ushleishim amor kimosa, and 30 amor height. For such a place, so one window will work. So how did that bring light? If they needed light and the Eibusher told them make light, how did this work? Now, in Ha'orah 4, the Rebbe says that be'emes, there are some aforshim that say that it doesn't mean one. In Even Ezra, it says, kirabim hoyu. There were many windows, or many avodim tevas. And the Posuk only says it b'loshen yochid because he's short. It doesn't always go into all the details. In Teirat Mimo, it says this loshen. Be'emes hoyu chalein is harba. There were many windows. Pirish chalein, when the Rashi says it was a window, chalein doesn't mean a window, a single window. Min chalein, it's a kind of window. Rashi in Vayishlach says that sometimes when you talk about a lot of oxen, you could say shade, even though shade is singular. The min shade, same thing, min windows. But the Rebbe says that really it's hard to say that, because if so, Rashi would have written clearly. Why would Rashi write chalein, which you have to look later in Rashi in Vayishlach, that you could sometimes use a word singular if you mean the whole min. Rashi would have written chaleines. That's one thing. But besides that, since Rashi saw the Gemara, because it says the Chazal say the Loshen Hashas in Gemara, it says the Loshen Rosh Rabim. And Rashi saw that, and Rashi changes from Rosh Rabim to Rosh Yochid. So obviously Rashi is telling us that there was only one window and one eventev. Now, why Rashi doesn't bring the second? Because in Gemara it says the Loshen Sai Ev Avon Tevis Margolius, also Margolius. Margolius is pearls. So the Rebbe says very simply here in the Or and the Shulai Gilyon. Pearls don't usually shine, but diamonds sometimes shine. But anyway, the bottom line is, according to Rashi, there was one window. If you learn it means a window. There was one eventev. And the purpose was to shine, to bring light. How much light could one window bring in already when you have such a big table? The Rebbe goes further, but yeah, so the kasha is even stronger. Kosev in the Torah it says kinim tasas ateva. You should make the teva kini. What's kini? Pirish Rashi medurim. There were rooms, chambers. L'chol behema v'chaya. For every behema there was a different chamber. That's number one. Number two, tachtim shnim shlishin. There were 3 floors. Ve'im kein, if so, afilim nitchesh asher chalon shosaneach ha'godol b'yeser. Afilim, that says a big window. Because the shaila we asked before is, how would one window be enough? Let's say it was a big window. But it wouldn't work. Could one window shine into different rooms? It's not like one big. If you have one big empty space, you could say you have a big window with a lot of light coming in, it'll bring light into the whole thing. But if they're separate, broken up rooms, how could one bring? So the Rebbe Shaili has been negated the window. Now what about the eventev? So in the Orah 7, the Rebbe says, been negated the eventev. Yes, Shleimar, we could say, al derech hapshat, that they used to carry it around with them. Every time they came, it's like you carry a flashlight. So it's one flashlight, one diamond, one jewel, gem or whatever, and you carry it around. But it's still a deichek to say that would be enough light for the teva. And besides that, it wasn't one person only Noach giving food to the animals. The children all helped. So at the same time, they had to go to different places. So even if you carry it around, but what about the other places where you didn't bring it? So and in Derech Hapshat, You could have answered maybe that he carried around. That's still not a good answer. By the way, the Rebbe says in Gemara, it says clearly Kova Neach. Neach didn't, he said it in, so it was in one place. But even if you'll say it, well, you could carry it according to Pshat, but it's not enough to say that's enough light. A third kasha, you do we know Sharash Mefarish Beish Perushim Binyan Echad, Be'im Kol Echad Ma Perushim Levade Ein Beket Liyashav HaKosov Pshutim B'chol HaProtim. Whenever Rasha brings two pshatim, why does Rasha bring two pshatim? Learn the pasuk. You have one pshat. What's wrong with that one pshat? Rasha only brings two pshatim when each one of the two pshatim itself doesn't explain the pshat of the pasuk in all details. The first pshat explains it, but there's some things not missing, and the second pshat explains it differently and has missing. Umasha kosher lepirish echad, and whatever is not clear, what is not understood according to one pshat, is not shver, not understood according to the second shot. Now, each shot has something that's a problem with that shot. That's why Rashi brings the second one. The second one has a different problem that's not there in the first. So that's why Rashi brings both. And between the two, which one is closer to Pshat? Always the first. Now we have to understand in this case, where Rashi brings two pshatim, one that was a window, one that was an eventev. What's the shverakai, the hardships in each one of these pshatim? Because of these hardships in each one, Rashi had to bring both. And why is the first one closer to pshat, the better pshat, than the second? Another shayla. Based on what we said, that each pshat that Rashi brings is to explain something that's not understood according to the other pshat. And this pshat explains it. Moving from that, we understand logically, what happens if there is a hardship in both pshatim? What do we do with that? So if there is a third pshat, that according to the third pshat, this is not hard, Rashi will bring the third pshat also. Even though the first pshat is also something that's not clear. And it's could even a stronger kasha than the kasha on the first and the second. That's why it's a third pshat. Because the say that is the first is the best, the second is second best, and the third is the third best. But still, it answers certain shaylas that the first two have. So therefore, based on this logic, that there's a third shot that answers a kasha that's according to both, since we said before that according to both shotim, there is a common kasha. How did one window or one eventev light up, be used for the whole teva? And that's a kasha on both shotim. So why didn't Rashi bring a third shot? Like the Chizkuni says that Tzayer Meloshin Yitzhar. Another pshat in the word Tzayer. Till now we were saying Yitzhar is Meloshin Tzayer means shine. Like the word Zayar. Zayar and Tzayer is the same idea. Shine. But he says it's a different word. Yitzhar. You know, Dogan Tirish Yitzhar. Yitzhar is Shemen, is oil. And when the Eibusha said you should make a Tzayer, Kavona Sakosavi, the Chizkuni says the pshat is Shenoyach Yob Shemen L'Teva. Bring oil into the Teva. In order to be able to light. You have oil, and then you can make a fire, and you could have light. So maybe that's what David said. And that's a pshat that answers the kasha that we have on both. How were they enough? You might say, well, the way tzeir to cite yitzar is not such a simple taich. And also there's another problem with this pshat that he meant bring in oil. So why does it say tzeir tasel teva? You should make tzeir to the teva. He should have said tzeir tachnis lateva. Bring in tzeir, bring in oil. So b'meila we could say that the Rashi doesn't bring this third pshat because it's shredakite and there's certain hardships. But on the other hand, harei dafke lepirish zeh. Dafke according to this pshat is yashav atmiya amura. The kasha we said before, according to both, that how were they enough for the whole teva? This would have been answered. So b'meila, even though this has a problem also, but we said before, the other part also, if you have a pshat, even though it has a problem, so then it'll be a kaponim avarash lavia kipirish shlish. It'll be a third pshat because every pshat, if Rashi brings more than one, that means each pshat has a problem. So this will also have a problem. Doesn't fit the lotion of the pasuk so much. but its answers are made akasha and the other two. So why doesn't Rashi bring it? So here in Ha'ora 10, the Rebbe brings the Levush. The Levush is one of the Meforshim Rashi. That why Rashi doesn't want to learn that he meant to bring in oil to make a fire to light. So the Rebbe says it's a deicha gechura deicha gleimer ki levush eiret. That's a deicha to say. He says like this: keep mishatera that teva v'tala b'eish samayim. When the teva will float on the water, there will be waves. It'll be jumping up and down. Yata Hashemen. The oil every time it gives a go up, the oil moves to the side. But it'll extinguish the fire. Valder as a shayve shemen korush. Even if you bring wax or you bring hardened oil, sometimes it could extinguish it suddenly. That's a hard thing to say because you could figure it out. He could have made some way that it should put in some shocks or something that would make it that it wouldn't move. So that's not a real teretz. So the kashi is why doesn't Rashi bring this shot? Then the Rebbe has another shot. The common alaposiv ayayim alaylo leish beisu. Later on, when the posik says that the day and night, the mazoles says like the mazoles, the constellations will not rest. So Rashi says, Peter Rashi, what does that mean? Michlal sheshovshu kol yemei hamabel. This was said after the mabel. After the mabel, David said, "I'll never again bring a mabel, and I'll never have the mazoles rest." So Rashi says, Michlal, that proves sheshovshu kol yemei hamabel, that during the days of the mabel it did rest, which means Rashi says, Shalei shimshu hamazoles, the mazoles did not work. You couldn't see a difference in day and night. You could only see a difference in day and night because the sun, but if the mazoles don't work, you couldn't see. That's what Rashi says. So it comes out from Rashi that he says that the mazoles did not work, so there was no light. Now we have a made it to Kekasha. The Ram, the Yom Mizrachi asks, what's the purpose of the window of the teva? There was no light throughout the whole mabel. There was no light. Only when a window brings light, if there's light outside. Inside it's dark, so if you open the window, you bring light in. But if it's dark outside too, what's the purpose of the window? Now here, before Rashi, this is Akasha the before Shabbos, and before Rashi, David, Tirtzu, they answer the kavonas l'shimsha mazolis. When the pasuk says that the mazolis should not stop anymore, so Rashi says that shows that during the mabul the mazolis did stop. Hilitnuas hagalgalim. It only means the movement of the constellations. Hainu meaning shekol yemei samabel is battle hakefim b'sivuvim. Like this, the mazolis have their sivuv, have their cycle the way they go. Then they didn't go. It doesn't say there was no light. So you could say there was no light. There was light. So that's how they answer the kasha of the Ram and Rashi. That how did the window help? Because there was some light outside. Ulam kvan is boyer kama pom drebish's but I said many times Rashi kosa pirusha b'signin boro. Rashi writes his pshat very clear. Ba'efen shegam ben chomesh l'mikol yita b'kavanosei. That even a child who's just starting to learn chumash and starting to learn chumash with Rashi will not make a mistake in what he means. So whatever Rashi says, you can't say Rashi meant this, meant that. But that he says what he means. If he means it, he says it clearly. So in our case, pirush ha'poshut shel dvorov. If you look at the simple taish of Rashi's words, Michlal sheshovsu, that during the mabul, the mazoles rested. Shalei shimshu hamazoles, they did not get used. So who the simple pshat is, shalei also shimusham, they didn't do what they're supposed to be doing, tafkidam, their job. Shimush means you're being used for what you have to do. That means that they did not do their job, and what's their job? Lahoyer al oris, to bring light. The late action is batlet nus galgalim, and it's not only that the circle of the galgalim stopped. So according to Rashi, the pashtas, the sun didn't work, it didn't work. So there was no light. So the kasha is a very strong kasha. So what's the purpose of the window? The whole purpose of the window is to bring light. That's why it's called sayat, to bring light. L'chura you could answer the teretz, the kasha of the Ram, and it seems like the Rebbe will stay with this. You could answer it like this. Well, the Farish to explain, shekavonas Rashi, al derech hapshat, that what Rashi means, and Rashi is written in derech hapshat, Mashakos of Shov Shekol Yemei Samabel, at all the days of the Mabel, the Galgalim rested, which means, as the Rebbe says, that they didn't give up light. It's only for the 40 days of the Mabul. Look, like it says, the Mabul was 40 days. That means like this. The general Mabul, the whole thing lasted for a year. 40 days, it rained, and the water came from the bottom. Then there's 150 days that it says after the 150 days are over, the Pasuk says that the underground water that came stopped, and the windows of the heavens were closed. So then nothing happened. Then it was just Mabul, and Noach waited till the water went down, and that took most of the time. So you could learn in Rashi. Rashi says the days of the Mabul, there was no mazolas, which means there was no light, is only for 40 days. And Bemes, the Rebbe says on the bottom of Orah 17, or 40 days. Or maybe even you could say it went down for 150 days. Shows that at the end of 150 days, by Yisochru, the bottoms got stuffed up, no more water came from the underground, and Aruvas HaShamayim, and the windows of the Shemayim stopped. By Yikoli HaGeshem and HaShamayim, the rain stopped. So there was a concept of rain 40 days, but there was other rain also continued 150 days. So it comes out, but after that, after the 150 days, it all came back. So let's go back to the Pnim. By the way, when the Rebbe said that this could be the Pshat in Rashi, that it was only the 40 days, or maybe 150 days, so the Rebbe says in Orah 15, that's only according to Rashi, in Pshat. But Al Derech HaDrush, it says in Yerushalmi, and it says in Medrash, that the Mazolas didn't work for 12 months. So, or in the Medrash, in Yerushalmi, it says the whole year of the Mabul. But in Derech HaPshat, like the Rebbe said many times, Rashi doesn't have to learn Derech. All the things that the Chazal say, it's in a different Derech HaLimud. In Derech HaPshat, everything is simple. And if everything is simple, so it says in Mabul, you're able to say that it means that only the 40 days or even more. Let's go back here. And after the 40 days, Mazolis work. So then there's the work, the window brought benefit. Then it became the thing called Seyar. So the Chura, we answer the Shaila of the Rom. The Shaila of the Rom, what was the purpose of the Chalik? To bring light. If there was no light, but the Rebbe says, we learn Pshat in Rashi. The beginning, Taka, there was no light for a certain amount of time, for 40 days, maybe even 150 days. But then there was a lot of days afterwards that they used this to bring in light. The kasha is still there. According to the ones that hold. That the Tzayim means there was a window. What happened to these 40 days? During these 40 days, where did they get light from? According to the one that says that there was an Evan Tave, so then they had the same Evan Tave before all the time. But according to the one that says the windows, so the light had to come in from the outside. And the first 40 days, there was no light. So where did they get light there? What did they do with light? That's the Rebbe Shaila. Now in Orah 19, the Rebbe goes in that this could be the Machlek is whether the Mazal Shimshim. Anyway, that's like a more Zaitig Gezach from the Pnei Meisha. That's the Shaila. So we have Kama Shailas. We have the Shailas. First of all, why was there only one window? What would they do if the whole purpose is for bring light, especially such a big teva? What's problem in each pshat? And why doesn't Rashi bring the third pshat that it means that you bring in oil? And now the other shaila, what kind of light did they have for the first 40 days? In other words, the Rebbe accepts the pshat that what Rashi says means only 40 days. So 40 days, there was no light. Okay. And then that's why the chalein, the kasha that we asked, what was the purpose of the chalein is not a kasha. For after the 40 days, there's a purpose. But the question is, what brought light? They have to see what they're doing the first 40 days. Mabir because that's what the Pshat says like this. And everything in Derech HaPshat. But when David told Noach to make the table, the Torah didn't say it. David didn't tell him every detail. Example. The Furish Bekro, it says in Posig, towards the end, Noach took off the cover. There was a cover on the table. Does it say David told him to make a cover? Doesn't say. Also, according to the pshat, that it's an eventay, the second pshat. Later it says he opened the window, and that's when he sent out the bird. How did the window get there? David didn't tell him to make a window. If you hold tzeir, when David says to make a tzeir, it means an eventay. Doesn't say you should make a door, an entrance into the teva. He told the word the door should be make the door on the side. But it doesn't say he told make a door. Why? Why doesn't it say these things? The reason is because the pshuta shel mikra move in a simple pshat it's understood. When David told Neach to make a teva, didn't have to tell him everything that you need to make a teva. It's self-understood. Only those things that Neach would not know on his own, David told him. David didn't have to tell him make a cover or a Pesach HaTeva to make a door. Simple. The main thing by Teva is to have, you can have the without a cover. You're not going to have a door. How could that be? It's understood. So that Ibisha didn't have to tell him. Like Ibisha didn't have to tell him, get a hammer and bang in the nails. I mean, don't build it. So whatever you're supposed to build in the Teva, fine. So now that we're saying that there's the simple things that is self-understood. David didn't tell him. This explains with the light. The kasha was what brought light? How much light could they bring in? So where did they get light? Or certainly, what did they do in the first 40 days when the window didn't help? Very simple. Neach didn't need David should tell him. Simple. You need something to light up the teva. So many things in the teva. All the animals and kol abhema. Shem is a name. When we told him Neach had to take care of their food. Everyone had its own chamber, its own room. Neach himself prepared oil or candles, whatever it was in that time, to bring light. Without David just saying. And I would like to add that Rebbe doesn't say it. Even if you hold it was, if there would be light outside. At night, there is no light. What do they do at night? What do they do? What do they think? David will say David should make a window and the window bring a light. Without all the other kashas, I'm saying. But that's during the day, there's light. At night, there is no light. What do we do? Like in the house itself. What do people do in the house? At night, there is no light. You open your windows, there's no light. What do? So you have a candle. Okay, we have the bulbs, you have a candle. So the same thing, David didn't have to tell him. It's poshut that you have to bring a light because there's going to be time when it's dark, so you'll use it. But if that's true, that's a great shaila. So why did he tell him make it sayar? For sure, Neach on his own would have done something to light up the teva. So why David should tell him make light? Sayar means actually light, as we said in the beginning. Lakers is what the light was, but why did he have to tell him make light? He didn't have to tell him, he would do it himself. Therefore, we must say, that's an additional thing. A special commandment. The Eibusher told him to make a tzayar, which is an inyan shalei. Besides the light that he's going to prepare, which he didn't have to tell him, he says, I want you to make a special light. I want you to have more. You would bring in this and this. I want you to make something else to bring in more light. Now, what is this new light? And this extra light that the Eibusher commanded them to do, some say it was a window. That the window, through the window, there would be more light. If they would open the window, they have more light. And this would only be obviously this would only help more light after 40 days. Because during the 40 days, there was no light outside, Rasha says. Even though one window, how much could it bring more light? But the window was used for other things. To take things out, to bring things in, to bring in air. So the main thing is because of light. How do we know the main thing is because of light? Because he calls it sayar. See, if the main thing wouldn't be the light, he wouldn't call it sayar. He would call it chalain. Chalain is a window that you could use for many things. Sayar means that purpose is light. So he wants to, but why make extra light? Because you could also derech hagav use it more. But the main thing is extra light. And as the Rebbe says in Order 23, he wouldn't have made that himself. It seems like he wouldn't have made. We said whatever is simple that you have to do, Neach would have done on his own. Noach would have done in his own, bringing in candles, bringing in oil, but the chalein wouldn't make. See, according to this is the whole order 23. According to the pshad that's an Even Tov, he understood by himself that you have to make a window, because later it says in Posik, he opened the window. So according to the one that says Sayar is the window, he opened that Sayar. But according to the Mandomer, it says it wasn't the window. That Abishah never told him to make a window. Where was the window? It says he opened the window. The pshat is because according to that pshat, he understood himself. But according to this pshat that it was a window, he wouldn't have done that window because he had other ways of light. He didn't need a window. But Abishah told him, no, I want you to make a window to make extra light. That's one pshat. Now we said before that if Rashi brings a second pshat, it's because the first pshat is not clear. There's something shver, something not understood. So the Rebbe continues. It's not such a good pshat. Because of Tzeiah, by the Torah changing from the word chalin, the regular word that in Hebrew, the Lashon Kedesh, a window. And you write Tzeiah, we have to say that the main thing why Abishah wanted this window is for extra light. And that's not such a good shot. Number one, how much it could only shine, light up a small chelik. So Abishah wanted extra air, and that's what the whole purpose. Shvach to say that one window will do it. Second thing, even that, it's only after the 40 days, like we said before, So it's not so simple to say that this is what Abishah wanted. So to bring the light with a window. Bring another pshat. It was an Even Tov which shined. According to that, this is a better pshat. Because here it's extra light. He brought in light anyway. But if you need extra light, you'll go around with this Even Tov, like the flashlight, and we'll go around to the whole thing. When you need more light. The Gamma Mishamesh Betzeya, Kol Hazman Shai B'Tev, and they use the Tzeya, the Even Tov, all the days. The two problems of the first pshat isn't there in the second pshat. What are the two problems? Number one, it doesn't give much light. It's only in one place, right against the window. And also, it's only after the 40 days. The second pshat is not a problem. Second pshat is not only in one place. You could carry it around, so it does more light in other places, and also that could be right from the beginning, even when there was no light outside. So that's why the second shot has a mile over the first. But the problem with the second shot is it doesn't fit to the words of the posuk where it says "Seyar tasel ateva," make a seyar to the teva. Havelaleim should have said "Seyar tachnis lateva," bring in. If seyar means an Even Tov, it means bring in an Even Tov. So it should have tachnis. So that's a shverakai to the second shot. The gam also madua yitzav hakadosh baruch hu lasis dover bilti rogel legamre. Why would David should tell him to do something that's so not common? Lahochin Even Tov will taste the seibrat teva. To take an Even Tov. Where do we hear people taking the Even Tov to bring in light? It's very not common. To say that that's the pshat in the posuk is not common, and therefore the second shot itself wouldn't have been enough. So the first is not enough because the problem you need the second. And the second is not enough because you have a problem, you need the first. Since this pshat is not set, not clear in the loshon of the pasuk, that's why it's like a second. It brings the second pshat and the rishon of Pirush Ikri, and the first one is the Ikir. In other words, the Rebbe learns that the problem with the first pshat is a lesser problem than with the second, because it seems like, he says it, but it seems like the reason is because according to the problem on the first pshat is not in the loshon of the pasuk. If Sayar means a window, it fits perfectly to the words. Sayar tasel teva, make a window in the teva. It doesn't fit to the teichen of what it's supposed to stand for, what it's supposed to accomplish. But that's not going to get the loshon of pasuk. It's a kasha. The second one problem is pushing the words. Sayar tasel teva doesn't fit. Make it Sayar, make an Even Tov when he doesn't mean to make it, bring it. And the problem in the loshon hakosuf is a bigger problem in the pshat than the problem in the teichen. So that's why the second one is the second, not the first, but they both are and both good. Now, the Rebbe doesn't even answer why he doesn't bring the third pshat, but that's obvious already. Why doesn't he bring the third pshat? Because that he wouldn't have to tell him. If the third pshat is bring in yitzhar, bring in oil, so you should be able to have light in the table. He didn't have to tell him that. That he understood himself. So how could Rashi say that he told him bring in light? Like, why doesn't it say other things that he told him? Like I said, he told him to bring a hammer. I want to bring this. Or told him to bring a bucket to carry the food. I mean, so that can be. But that's not, that the pasuk doesn't say. So it must be this something extra. Or extra could be one of these two things, and each parashat has something not so clear. Now the next piece, till the end of the Sif, is really not clear what the Rebbe means. I have to tell you that. I'm going to learn it the way I understand the pshat, which is not so clear in the lashonos of the sicha either. But maybe you could hear what other people learn, how they learn pshat in this next piece. So I'm going to learn it, continue learning as I think it could be the pshat, maybe, not even sure. The eid yesh leimer bazeh the iker. Something else that Rebbe could say, and that's a main point. So what I understand is that Rebbe is trying to bring another point of the mile of the first pshat over the second. You see, the last thing we learned, how much that the second pshat answers the kasha of the first, but the second pshat has a problem also. And what was the problem? It doesn't fit the lashon haposik. Now the Rebbe, I can tell you more. There's another problem with the second pshat, and the first pshat is better, and the Rebbe will explain the mile of the first pshat. There's a shaila in the second pshat, which the first pshat doesn't have. Hagdim. I said many times, Rashi, in his commentary, answers every kasha that's possible that a person might have in the pshute shlonika, in the pshat. The Rebbe has his rayas, because some people would say it's not like that. If you someone writes a pirusham, so some things he explains, some things he doesn't answer. In other words, especially if I don't have an answer, I don't mention it. Rashi, in a few places in Chumash, writes, I don't know. Who asked him to write, I don't know. Don't write anything finished. Is mashma that we're every other, and it's kashas that he has, and he doesn't have an answer. Is mashma that every other kasha he has an answer. Sometimes he doesn't even answer it because he expects us to understand the answer ourselves. Anyway, but Rashi explains everything, any kasha. Now we have, in our case, we have a Meidike kasha that says, which Rashi doesn't answer it. When all the details, when the Eibishter commanded him what to do, what the table should be made of, and how big the table, all these things. Rashi explains each one why. Why is this? Why did the Eibishter tell him to do this? Why did he say this? What does the word lama why mean? I need a reason. If we wouldn't need a reason, Rashi wouldn't say lama why. Why? The Eibishter knows why. A simon Rashi learns that we have to have a reason. So here, and Rashi explains it. The question is, Mahu Tam the Tzeir. What's the reason for the Tzeir? The Eibishter said to make a Tzeir. Why? Now you could say a Tzeir means a window, and it's in order to be able to send the bird. You could send it through the door. So we don't see why the Eibishter told him to make a Tzeir. And I think there's a double kasha here. What's the reason for the tzayar? And why did the Eibishter have to tell him? If there is a reason for the tzayar, then it's self-understood. Why did the Eibishter have to give him a special tzibur for the tzayar? So Lochem Pirush Rashi, that's why Rashi says that what does tzayar mean? Echalaim. Now, the Rebbe is going to explain that it means a window. Now we understand why he wouldn't have himself done it. And the Eibishter had to tell him. Why? He wouldn't have made a window. The Eibishter told him, I'm going to destroy them. So the Eibishter told him what he's going to do. It makes sense that the Eibishter told him everything he's going to do to the Mabul. The Eibishter told him, I'm not going to allow the Mazolis to work. So probably Noach knew. If Noach knew that, why would Noach make a window? Why would he make a window? Now, this could be even if you don't learn, if you don't learn that the Mazolas didn't work only for 40 days. But he didn't know that. The Eibishter told him that the Mazolas won't work. So why would he make a chalin? Well, what happened? So why did the Eibishter tell him to make a chalin? He read on Berachmim. When the Eibishter brought a mabel, it wasn't a mabel first. He brought it down with Rachmim. If they do tshuva, it'll become a good rain. And it won't destroy, and the mazolis will not stop working. That's why he told him to make a window. He told him to make a window, and the Rebbe doesn't say what I'm going to say now, but I think that's what he means. I can't say for sure. We asked the Shaila, what was the purpose of the challah? And the Rebbe said before, there was enough light there, because he on his own brought in candles, oil, light. David said, I want you to have extra. So make a challah. So we asked the Shaila, what's the purpose of the extra? Now we know why. The Eibishter, again, I'm saying it on my own. The Eibishter wanted to show him, make a challah, because I'm not sure that the mazolos will stop working. That is done through the challah. And the Eibush had to tell him. He himself would not know, because he knew that there would be no mazolis, so that he would not make a challah, because it wouldn't help, it wouldn't do anything. But the Eibush told him to make a challah, because Lamaisa, the Eibush started off, it was Geshem, and they could have done tshuva. Had he done tshuva, everything would have been different. Then there would be light, and that's what the Eibush to make a challah. The Rebbe doesn't say, but it seems like that's the reason. He asked the Shaila, Ma tam tzeya? Why is there a tzeya? So Rasha says, why didn't the Torah say what the reason is? Or why didn't Rasha say? So Rasha said it. By Rasha saying it was a window, if you start thinking, what's the purpose of a window? A window is to bring in light, especially if you call it seyar. So you start thinking, why did he want him to make this light? Probably because light will come in. How could light come in? So must be that it's a possibility that there will be light. And the Eibush showed it to him by making the challah. Even Teva, why? We said before, there was enough light there. The Eibush want extra light. Even Teva, what's the purpose? Why? Not with the kasher. We said before, what's the purpose of this? How much light? It could bring more light, true. But what's the purpose? Why did the Eibush want the extra light? So there's no reason for it. That's a chesed in the second shot. So the first shot is better. Now, I don't know if this is so, because otherwise the Lashon is not clear. So if someone has comments and to explain the shot differently, I'm ready to listen. Okay, so now we Al Kaponim understand the simple shot of Rasha. Rasha. What's the chassidus of Rasha? Pirish Rasha zeh. So we have two things, two pshatim here, whether it was a window or it was an eventay. Ha'hefresh ben ha'esh nichas ha'tichalm lo even shal Evan Teva, who? The difference in light that comes through a window and light that comes from the Evan Teva, from the jewel. If you open the window and you get light, light comes from the outside. Evan Teva shines inside, it shines, in the darkness. It shines from itself, and it's not bringing in light from someplace else. These two things represent two ways of serving Hashem. The first thing is a closed dikazach. Seyar is the tachlis of Avedas Hashem. Torah mitzvahs. For what's the purpose? You have to bring the light into the world. Okay. But that could be in two ways how you bring in the light. The first way is to make a window. Hainu. Like I said before in the beginning, a window doesn't mean window with glass. It means a hole that comes in. There is godliness in the world. It just covered up. Even though it's known, it says that in Hayim Yem that business people could see Hashgacha Pratis in the world. They see the Eibishter. More than people who are in yeshiva, people who learn all day, daven all day. But in order to get that, to see it, you have to take off the cover. There's a cover. The teva covers up, and you got to get rid of the cover. To take away the garment of teva, which covers up on the Eibishter and the lakus, which is higher. Because in teva you have higher in teva, but it's covered by teva. That's the first level, and the person serves the Eibishter. Last is chalein, to make a window. The hamechitza v'hester the teva, in the mechitza, the concealment of teva. That the light of a Davish, the higher in teva, should shine in. Like here, in the teva represents the whole world, and in the world you have to have the light from the outside, from Davish to come. After there was a window done in the mechitza of teva, and already you reach that level that you brought in light higher than teva, that in teva you should see a day, and it gives a person the power to go higher. Now you go to higher madrig. And what is that? That's the second shot. The Yeshemrim. When Asher says Yeshemrim, it was a window. Then he says Yeshemrim. So the Rebbe teaches Yeshemrim. Some say, who are those some? Some meaning after you finish with being a chalain, you brought in a lakus from the outside into the world. Now you could have an eventay. You had the eventay which shines, which is from the thing itself. Hainu, which means not only you take away the concealment of teva, you change the teva itself. The teva in itself shines. Because as we said before, teva itself has a eir. So the first you could see the lamaylam and teva, and the teva is taken away. But you could be'emes, you could bring out that the teva itself is like even atzmanas is even teva meir alehem. The even itself is an even teva, and the word even teva means the teva mu'irim, means it shines. Teva a lot of times means light. So that's the second madrege. And in order 31, the Rebbe says al derech beisa yifanim the biru racheshech. It says you have to be mevared darkness. So it says two things, two ways. Number one, take away the darkness, so it shouldn't cover up the light. Or the higher the cheshech itself changed the light, and that's the two pshatim, whether it's a chalain or it's an eventev. So this is the chassidish pshat of this, what Rashi says. Now, if anybody wants to comment on pshat in that sif.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask the question about the raven the Noach sent out.
Yeah.
You send it out through the front door, the other animals could crawl out already. Maybe you had to send it out through a chalon, which is higher above.
I'm sure the other birds also. Why didn't they fly out? Wasn't the only bird.
So he probably
he watched it. He probably stood there and opened it up and let it go and make sure no one goes. Same thing he did that down at the door. I mean, he could have put a guard there.
Could that be a pshat why they told him to make a chalon? Or that's not after pshat?
No. Doesn't say. Then he wouldn't call it. No, the Rebbe said before that is a reason. But since he calls it Zayar, must be that's not the main reason. Because the main reason is Zayar, the Shan.
Because you just said before, Nara said that the Rebbe said it could go through the door instead of the roof. Instead of the Zayar.
Yeah.
But where's the Zayar? If it was Mamsha Mabel and there was no glass, so obviously he made it out of the wood or the.
Out of wood, he made a cover.
Cover.
Yes, and the Rebbe actually, I didn't go into that order. If you want to look here in the order 23, the end of order 23, the Rebbe mentions this. He says, why wouldn't he have made a chalein? Because he said that Noach on his own would not have made a chalein. So he says, look at order 23. If not for the Eibishter, he wouldn't make a window or window. Why? You have to bring candles anyway.
Right.
And then he says further, and making a window is a problem. It blocks, like you don't get protected from the water so much. So on his own, probably he would hesitate from making a window. So the Rebbe does mention it, but Lepel Mamish, when he didn't want, he closed it. And the first 40 days, it was when it was really raining hard. He didn't open it. Chalon was there, but it wasn't used. And later on, he used it. Also,
looking at today's chitas, and I think from Rashi it says that Takdim is also going to work for 12 months. I think that's what Rashi from today's chitas. That the Mazol is going to work for 12 months, not just 40 days.
It doesn't say that. It just says the time of the Mabel. The Rebbe used the Lashon.
Okay. Yeah.
So the Rebbe says you may something. The word Mabel says "Vayia Mabel Naboyim Yem." You could Mabel. Sometimes Mabel goes on the whole story, and sometimes it goes specifically on the 40 days, or maybe even down to the 50 days, but not the whole time. So the Rebbe learns Pshat Rashi from the word. You could learn like that.
40 days.
The Rebbe says L'choura you could learn, but it seems like later on he take a holds like that. Okay.
Thank you very much.
I have a different question, if I may.
Yeah, sure.
According to the Pshat, that Tzayar means Evan Taiva. Lefi Aniyas Daiti, I never saw and maybe just because I never saw it, an Evan Teva that should have its own light inside it.
Right? We always, from being kids, we always wondered, how is there an Evan tape that shines? And
Yeah.
they say there are Evan tape that glow. There are such things. That's what we were told even when we were kids. Yes, there is. And the Rebbe says here in order, let's see, on the right in the beginning, the Shule Agilia, the bottom, he says, why the Rasha says Evan tape, and why not Margolis, like the Gemara uses the Lashon?
Right.
Al derech harogel Margolius, which usually means pninim. Pninim means pearls. Elo, sometimes it's also called Eventay, but Margolis ain't a dover hameir. Mashenken avonim teves yesh mehem minim shemeirim. Yes, there are kinds of stones that shine.
Mm-hmm.
There are.
Or you can lump shot that they told to take. Or you can lump shot that they told to take a certain type of jewel that was infused with light. That was part of the tzibur.
The what? That was able to give light.
Yes, that was able to give light.
Yeah,
or
they able to take such a jewel that gives light, 100%.
Yeah.
And probably knew what jewels. And I think
Usually,
there are. I remember from Alamo, you always ask them, say, yeah, there are some jewels that give light.
Yeah, like the uranium gives light.
Oh, okay.
That's not a jewel.
So usually,
normally a jewel has light because it reflects. The light of the sun.
Reflects, right.
But there are they have their own. Actually, this has nothing to do with the sicha, because the end, when the Rebbe says that the Evan tape gives light from itself, it says in the bottom, look in the Maimer, Tovshin Bey, say it Tasel Lateva. So in that Maimer explains it. That the union of an Evan tape giving light is a light that comes from itself. And you know, there are things. What do they do nowadays when they have the light that lights up at night? Not bulbs, but the police come and they shine light to see where they're going. The place or the army when they go at war. So that's some kind of light. I don't know what, but there are such things, I guess.
Yeah. We were so good that there was a jewel like that.
Yeah. No, but I think it's even now like that, some jewels. I don't know. I frankly, was on the bikini.
When we were kids, we had these watches. They used to light up at night, the numbers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they used to glow. That's why I used the word glow. I remember the word. It glows. We used to have some toys that when you make, only when it's completely dark, you see them. They glow. Yeah.
Yeah, you can Google it. You'll see there's a type of rock. Uperite rocks apparently glow.
Oh, okay. Okay.
There you got it. Mr. Google is right.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Ask your
Good enough.